Picture this, it's the 1st of September 1939. The world stands on the brink of the largest and deadliest conflict in human history, World War II. The dawn of the World War II began with a ruthless act of aggression. Germany, under the leadership of Adolf Hitler and his Nazi Party, initiated the conflict with their invasion of Poland. Hitler, a man who had risen to power by exploiting the economic woes and nationalistic sentiments of the German people, had set his sights on expanding Germany's territories and influence. This invasion was not an isolated event. It was the culmination of a series of aggressive actions taken by Hitler and the Nazis in the years leading up to the war. The annexation of Austria, the Sudetenland, and the rest of Czechoslovakia were clear indications of Hitler's expansionist policies. The world watched with bated breath as Hitler continued to violate the Treaty of Versailles, which had ended World War I and was meant to maintain peace in Europe. But the invasion of Poland was a step too far. The world could no longer stand by and watch. Britain and France, two of the world's major powers, declared war on Germany on the 3rd of September, 1939. This marked the beginning of a global conflict that would span 6 tumultuous years, involve over 30 countries, and result in the deaths of millions of people. In the backdrop of these events, the world was changing rapidly. The rise of Hitler and the Nazi Party had profound implications, not just for Germany but for the entire world. Hitler's charismatic leadership and his ability to rally the masses around his cause had a profound impact on the course of history. His ideologies of racial purity, territorial expansion, and totalitarian rule would leave a lasting legacy on the world, shaping the course of the 20th century and beyond. By the end of 1939, the world was already beginning to feel the tremors of a conflict that would redefine history. As we step into the 1940s, the war takes a grim turn, expanding its reach across the globe. The decade's onset was marked by Germany escalating its aggressive expansion. In April 1940, Germany launched Operation Weserübung, invading Denmark and Norway. The swift and decisive blitzkrieg tactics of the German forces overpowered the ill-prepared Danish and Norwegian defenses, leading to their quick capitulation. Meanwhile, the skies over Britain became the stage for a monumental aerial clash. The Battle of Britain, fought primarily between the Royal Air Force and Germany's Luftwaffe, was the first major military campaign to be fought entirely by air forces. Despite facing significant numerical disadvantage, the resilience and determination of the RAF pilots, coupled with the strategic errors of the Luftwaffe, resulted in a crucial victory for Britain. In the shadows of the war, a horrifying chapter in human history was unfolding. The Holocaust, Hitler's systematic extermination of Jews, began in earnest. Concentration camps and ghettos were established across Nazi-occupied Europe, marking the start of an indescribable horror that would claim 6 million Jewish lives. As Europe was embroiled in conflict, the United States remained on the sidelines until the infamous surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941. The Japanese assault on the U.S. Pacific Fleet was a strategic gamble intended to cripple American naval power and prevent its interference in Japan's Pacific conquests. However, the attack had the opposite effect. It galvanized American public opinion, leading to the United States formally entering the war on the side of the Allies. By the end of 1941, the war had truly become a global conflict, with the world's major powers choosing sides. The stage was set for the most devastating conflict in human history, one that would reshape the world in ways that are still felt today. The years 1942 to 1943 were pivotal in the course of World War II. This period saw a series of significant events that would ultimately shift the balance of power and mark the beginning of the end for the Axis powers. In the icy depths of Russian winter, the Battle of Stalingrad raged from late 1942 into early 1943. The city was of strategic importance, and both Hitler and Stalin knew it. The brutal confrontation resulted in heavy casualties on both sides, but it was the Axis forces that felt the sting of defeat. The Red Army encircled and decimated the German Sixth Army, marking the first major defeat of Hitler's military forces. This victory was more than a military triumph for the Soviets. It was a psychological blow to the Axis forces and a beacon of hope for the Allies. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in North Africa, another turning point was brewing. The North African campaign, fought in the vast deserts of Libya, Egypt, and Tunisia, swung the pendulum in favor of the Allies. The combined forces of the British, American, and Free French forces managed to repel the Axis powers. The surrender of the last Axis forces in Tunisia in May 1943 marked the end of the campaign and a significant victory for the Allies. This victory not only liberated North Africa but also paved the way for the invasion of Italy. The Allied invasion of Italy, which began in July 1943, was another critical juncture in the war. It was the first time the Allies had set foot on the European mainland, marking the beginning of a long and arduous journey towards victory. The fall of Mussolini and the subsequent surrender of Italy to the Allies signified a significant shift in momentum. The tide of the war was turning, but the path to peace was far from clear. The victories of 1942 and 43 were pivotal, yet the road ahead was still fraught with challenges and uncertainties. The world held its breath, waiting for the next moves in this global chess match. In the final years of the war, the world held its breath as the conflict reached its climax. The D-Day invasion, known as Operation Overlord in June 1944, marked a significant turning point. This daring and strategically complex operation, launched by the Allies, involved over 150,000 soldiers storming the beaches of Normandy, France. The invasion served as a critical blow to Nazi Germany, marking the beginning of their end. As the Allies pushed eastward, the Soviet Union advanced from the east. Berlin, the heart of the Third Reich, was under siege by April 1945. The city fell to the Allies on May 2nd. Adolf Hitler, the man who had orchestrated the world's deadliest conflict, was found dead in his bunker. His reign of terror had ended, and so too had the war in Europe. But the war was not yet over globally. The Pacific Front still raged on, with Japan refusing to surrender. The United States, looking to avoid a prolonged and bloody invasion of Japan, chose a path that would forever change the world. In August 1945, 2 atomic bombs were dropped on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The devastation was unimaginable, with over 200,000 lives lost. The bombings forced Japan's hand, leading to their surrender. On August 15th, Japan announced its surrender to the Allies, marking the end of World War II. But it wasn't until September 2nd, aboard the USS Missouri, that Japan formally signed the Instrument of Surrender. A world that had been at war for 6 long, brutal years could finally start to heal. The war had been won, but at an unimaginable cost. Lives were lost, cities were in ruins, and the world had been forever altered. The aftermath of World War II would shape the remainder of the 20th century. On September 2, 1945, the world breathed a sigh of relief as World War II officially ended. While the end of the war brought relief, it also revealed the devastating consequences and the start of a new world order. The human cost of World War II was unparalleled. Tens of millions lost their lives. Countless others were left scarred, both physically and emotionally. Cities were reduced to rubble, economies were shattered, and societies were forever altered. In the wake of this devastation, the world sought to prevent such a catastrophic war from reoccurring. This ambition led to the formation of the United Nations, an international organization aimed at promoting peace, security, and cooperation among nations. Simultaneously, the war had sparked a wave of decolonization, particularly in Africa and Asia, as countries sought to assert their sovereignty. This era also marked the start of the Cold War, a geopolitical chess game between the 2 new superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. World War II forever changed the course of history, shaping the world as we know it today.